Hello, good afternoon. Hey gang, guess what? It's a solid gold Sunday. Good afternoon, I'm Lee Rand. How you doing? It's been a while, yeah, and I promised that I would do an in-depth interview about my radio career and that type of thing, and we're going to do it this afternoon here on Lee Solid Gold Show Facebook page. So get ready. And it should be interesting. I don't know what all the questions are going to be, and I don't know what all the answers are going to be, but I know we're going to be talking about rock and roll, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So, let's get it going with question number one.
What drew you to this music in the first place?
Oh, what drew me to this music? Whoa. Well, that goes way back, way back. I don't know. The first time I went to a parade, I heard the drummers drumming as they were marching by, and I said, hey, you know, I like the sound of that. And so I was attracted to percussion, and, well, you know, over the years, my interest in music just kept growing, and of course, by the time I was about 12 or 13 years old, I discovered the transistor radio. Ta-da! Yeah, and, well, because the rest is sort of history. My very first record that I actually bought was by the Sensations. Let Me In. Whoop. Remember that one, gang? Yeah. And, well, I met my first rock and roll star back in 1963 when I met Bobby Boris Pickett, the Monster Mash guy. Yep. And I did my first record hop in 1962 at 5th Street Junior High School in Bangor, Maine. And, well, I was known for having a musical collection and being up to date on all the latest songs and singers and all that stuff, you know. And, of course, I like the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys just were starting to break. Because this was a few years before the Beatles. Yeah. And we had the Beach Boys and, of course, the Four Seasons. Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun back then in the day. So I did my first record hop down there in Bangor. And, well, I just kind of fell in love with pop music. And the rest is sort of history, I guess. But that's what first attracted me to the music was early teenage years, I guess, and my interest in drums.
Who influenced you the most or helped you the most when you were getting started?
Oh, well, I don't know. I met a lot of the early rock stars when they came to Bangor to perform. A lot of times these singers, when they started their national tours, they'd send them up to Bangor, Maine, and then they'd work south. So they'd work all the kinks out of their performance up here in the Northeast before they went to the big places like Boston and Philadelphia and that type of thing. And so I met a lot of them back then, but there was a disc jockey that used to work for WABI who was quite instrumental and really became a friend of mine. His name was Jim Winters. His real name was Jim Winterbottom. I can see why he changed his name. Jim Winters, he was a heck of a nice guy. He was a DJ on the WABI radio, and he introduced me to a number of the stars when they came through the Bangor area, and he kind of liked me, and I liked him, and that type of thing. We got along great, and he was instrumental in forming my idea of what it was like to entertain like at a record hop. He used to do record hops and sock hops at the local schools, and I kind of emulated the way he did it. I liked the way he did it. And so later on, when I really got into DJ work full-time, doing the live shows, I tried to fashion my sock hops along the lines of what he did back in the early 60s, mid-60s. And he was a heck of a nice guy. He left Bangor and went out in the Midwest and worked for a couple of radio stations, and I think he ended up in California. I lost track of him. He's passed away now. But he was a heck of a nice guy. And if you go to my website, MrSolidGold.com, we have a few pictures of Jim Winters there. And you can see what he likes. Because a lot of you people from the northeastern part of Maine will remember him for his radio show on WABI radio. But it was a good time. And he was instrumental in a lot of things that I did and do.
Tell us more about the music stars you met, and which ones were the most fun.
Well, I met a lot of people that were famous. Most of them were really nice. A lot of them were jerks, and there was a combination. You know, some of my favorites. Brenda Lee, she was a sweetheart. I mean, she was just fantastic. Put on a heck of a good show. Really, just really nice. She's out there rocking and rolling today, and she was really nice. Freddie Fender. Now, Freddie Fender was a heck of a nice guy. He came up to Bangor, and I worked for him at the Bangor State Fair, emceeing his shows, stuff, and he did 2 shows when he came up. This was in the mid 1980s, and he had one show that he did in the afternoon, and the next one he did in the evening. Well, after the first show, which was really good, we were talking backstage, and he said, gee, I don't have anything to do till about 8 o'clock tonight. And you got any ideas? And I said, hey, what the heck? Here's my car. I was parked out back behind the stage. I said, let's go get something to eat, and let's ride around Bangor, and I'll show you some of the historic sites of Bangor. Hannibal Hamlin's tombstone and where he's buried in Mount Hope's cemetery in Bangor, and just different things around Bangor. And so he hopped in the car, we took off. And we had a heck of a time for 2 or 3 hours. We went all over Bangor and laughed and joked and talked about music and rock and roll and country music, and showed him, you know, a bunch of the sites. It was really great. That's one of my most interesting times, I think, with some of these people. Bobby Pickett, of course, one of the first ones I met, was very nice. He sang a very good rock and roll version of Boney Maroney, which I thought was interesting. And he sang, of course, his hit song several times. This was at the old Bangor City Hall auditorium, by the way, in Bangor, Maine. And that was kind of nice. He was cool. Well, I think he was new to the business, and he was just overly friendly. I can't remember who backed him up. He didn't bring a band with him. I think it was the Jesters, the original Jesters, but I could be wrong on that one. But it was one of the Bangor area bands that backed him up, and that was good. Chuck Berry put on a heck of a great show. Met him when he worked at the University of Maine, doing a show. Loud, very loud. Probably one of the loudest concerts I ever went to. He put on a heck of a show, but it was loud. I couldn't hear anything for 3 days. Really, literally, you know. But he put on a great show, and he of course, he's a legend, you know. And one person that put on a heck of a show was Johnny Rivers. I emceed his shows too, and this was during his Secret Agent Man tour, and he played in Bangor, and well, he did 2 shows. I don't know if he was having a bad weekend or what, but he was a jerk. He really was. It's too bad because his music was great. And when I played in the rock and roll bands in the 60s, we always played Johnny Rivers' music. And, you know, I really idolized the guy. And I finally got a chance to meet him and actually work for him. And he was just not nice. But anyway, he put on a great show. And I remember after the first show in the afternoon, he said, you know, the night show, he says, I'm going to do this song, these songs, and everything. I'm going to end it with this song. I said, and that's it. I'm getting off the stage. No encore, no nothing. I can't wait to get out of here. Well, okay. The place was packed. There was all kinds of people at both shows that came to see him. And I figured I had nothing to lose. I already got paid. So, you know, he played that last song, and I jumped right up on the stage, get up to the microphone and said, hey, gang, let's hear it for Johnny Rivers. Great Johnny Rivers. What a show. Hey, we got to hear some more. You want to play another one or two, huh, Johnny? What do you say? Well, he was kind of surprised, angry, but he did. He got back out in front of the microphone, played a couple more songs, and then he left. After a few choice words to me as he was walking by. But that's okay, because I figured, hey, you know, it's important for the fans to get a good show. And he did do musically a very good show. He really did. That's that one. Paul and Paula, they played in Old Town with Jimmy Gilman and the Fireballs. They didn't sound like the records But, the first time I ever saw anybody lip sync, by the way, was when Bobby Pickett was on the WABI teen show they had, and Jim Winters, of course, hosted that. And I had just met him, and so, because he invited me up to the show, and I went, here's where I was naive, because all of a sudden they said, here he is, Bobby Pickett, this big hit, and it was Monster Mash and everything like that. And he comes out, and all of a sudden I'm hearing the record play through the speakers, and he's just standing there mouthing the words. And I was looking around, and, oh, what's this? First time I had ever seen anybody lip sync. But anyway, he was a nice guy. I enjoyed seeing him. He passed away several years ago, and we did keep in touch for a number of years, and, it's he was cool. Oh, there were others. Mo Bandy worked for him down at the Skowhegan State Fair here in Maine. He was nice. I did a lot of MC work for different artists and singers back in the 80s, 1980s. It was a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people, and most of them really were nice, and they put on a good show. And because you got the hobnob with them between shows, which was always kind of fun, And anyway, those are some of the people I like. I guess, Freddie Fender, Brenda Lee, those were two that really ring a bell with me as far as people I really enjoyed being around. There were others, and if I left somebody out, I'm sorry. There were so many back then. But anyway, good question.
Why is sharing this music important to you?
Well, I enjoy the music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I don't know. It to me, it reminds me of happy times, meeting a lot of nice people, sharing music that I love with everybody who likes it, who brings back memories, happy memories, I hope. I don't know. It's just something I've enjoyed doing. I was on stage for the first time at the Old Town High School back in 1953, when my aunt Bertris dressed me up in a pair of pajamas that she made at home ec class, and I had to go model the pajamas on stage, and I wasn't too happy about it, if I remember right at the time. But anyway, after that, I didn't mind it, and so when I got into junior high school, by that time, I did pantomime things. I did a version of the First Family album on stage, where I did the voices and everything in front of the whole school at a contest that they had. And of course, when they started getting around to record hops, they always thought of me, and a lot of times they would have a band at the dances at the junior high, but the bands would take a break, and the kids didn't want to just hang around and do nothing, so they figured, hey, we ought to have somebody play some records, like the DJs do, like Jim Winters does if he's here, or something like that. And so they came to me, and because, well, Lee's got all the records, man. He knows all that stuff. Let's get him up here. So anyway, that's what happened. That's how I started doing record hops, actually. I probably would have ended up doing some anyway later on down the road, but that's how I started, back at the old 5th Street Junior High in Bangor, Maine. In fact, several years ago, me and my wife went down to the old junior high school, and I wanted to see the gym where I did my first record hop, and maybe take a few photos and that type of thing. And much to my dismay, I guess, the gymnasium was no longer a gym. They had turned it into a computer center for the students, and they had computer rooms and all that. The gym wasn't there, so there was nothing to take pictures of. The school was still there, but anyway, where I did my first record hop is not there. But anyway, what was the question again?
Why is sharing the music
Oh
important
yeah,
to you?
sharing the music is great. When I did, doing my record hops, in the early '80s, mid '80s, and stuff, it was great. Had a popular radio show on WLKN AM and FM here in Northern Maine. The number one listened to radio show on Sunday afternoons north of Bangor, and so we had thousands of listeners, and it was a lot of fun on the radio show. But when we did the record hops, that was cool, because the people that listened to the radio show would come to the record hops, and a lot of them you'd know from requests when they would call them in. Hi, this is Joe over in Milo. Remember me? Yeah. And so it was just a lot of fun. Everybody came for the memories and to just have a good time and dance to the old rock and roll. And so we used to have sellout crowds everywhere, up at the Pomola in Millinocket, the Union River Oyster Bar down in Ellsworth, here at the KC Hall in Lincoln. I was the first entertainer to sell out the KC Hall in Lincoln. I did it several times, and it was a rocking time, I tell you. The old Chalet restaurant up here in Lincoln, the Anchorage Hotel in Old Town. Goodness gracious, I mean, I was all over the place, doing record hops and sock hops, and it was a lot of fun. Since those days, there have been bands and everything that have sold out the KC Hall. I should mention that, but I was the first one to do it, and it was a lot of fun. And I did them all over the place, and sometimes we used to go up to the Heritage in Millinocket. I used to do my Solid Gold radio show on Sunday afternoons on WLKN, and that would go 12 to 6. It was a 6-hour show. A lot of fun. And then I'd take a break, I'd have supper or what have you. I'd drive up to Millinocket to the Heritage, set up on stage up there and do a show from 9 to 1. And sometimes we would actually broadcast the record hop from the Heritage. So there was a lot of solid gold music going on up here in northern Maine back in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. It was just a lot of fun, and it was cool to get to meet a lot of the people that listen to my radio shows and everything. They'd come up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and, I always request this song, by the Four Seasons. Remember Sherry by the Four Seasons? That's me that always requests that song. Oh, okay. Now they'd put a face with the voice and everything, and because she played the song, and we had a good time. So it was a lot of fun doing those record hops. A lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And, of course, I made money doing it. That was fun, too. But it was cool. But by the end of the weekend, I was tired. I used to do wedding receptions and class reunions and you name it. I did them all over the place. And so, Thursdays, Fridays, I'd be working at nightclubs at the Anchorage or something like that, do my Solid Gold show on Sunday afternoons, and then Sunday nights I'd have shows, and I had a wedding reception on a Saturday afternoon too, thrown in there. So, there was a lot of music, a lot of work, and over the years, because I gained a reputation for having a fun time, with my shows, and of course, people that listen to my radio show, they would come. So anyway, it was quite a decade or so, back from the late '70s up into the 90s, doing all those record hops and stuff like that. In the meantime, also, of course, emceeing a lot of the artists that came through the Bangor area, the Skowhegan area, and some of the fairs in the summer and things like that. Southwest Harbor, Frankie Valley, things, that people would come up into Maine that time of year. You didn't have too many in the winter. I know why I live here. It's cold. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. And of course, we're kind of forgetting that actually for a while when I was in high school, before I really did record hops very much, I was a drummer for several rock and roll bands in Eastern Maine. None that really were great. Okay, but we always had plenty of work. We were more or less a cover band. We didn't do too many songs. Well, we didn't do any songs that were original, except one song. When Help came out in 1965, I listened to that album, and I just got an urge to write a song that was similar to some of the stuff the Beatles were doing on Help. And so I got Danny Webster, who was our guitar player from VZ, who has since disappeared. He came up to the house, and I had the words, and he, I told him what I wanted, and he kind of, for chords and the tune and the melody and all that. And so we came out with a song, and I thought it was pretty good, actually. So we took it to the next rehearsal for the band, and we learned it. And I didn't sing it, because I'm not a singer. You don't want to hear me sing. No. So Ronnie Cunningham was the lead singer in the band, did most of the singing. He sang the song, and we played it at the Red Barn in Monroe. We were down there. That was a job that Jim Winters had gotten our band, and that's another story I'll tell you in a minute. But so we debuted the song down there as an original song, and I thought it went well, but nobody else in the band liked it, and so we didn't do it anymore. And I can't for the life of me remember what the name of the song was or what the words were. It's lost. We never recorded it on anything, so it's gone. So anyway, that was in the band Ronnie and the Roadrunners back in 1965. How we got the job at the Red Barn was interesting. Jim Winters, he was a heck of a nice guy. I really would like to see him again someday. Maybe I will if he's a Christian. But anyway, he used to do sock hops down there on Friday nights, teen dances at the Red Barn. He'd get a percentage of what came through the door. And so he was talking to me one day, and he said, hey, I tell you what, Lee. He says, I don't need the money that much. Why don't you come down, and when I take my breaks, you guys can do, a couple shows during the evening, and I'll split the door with you, and plus I'll promote the band on my radio show. When I say I'm going to be in Monroe at the Red Barn, I'll mention you guys, and hopefully you can get some other jobs out of it. Okay, so we did, and so he brought us down to Monroe at the Red Barn, and after a while, I really felt bad about this, but he didn't mind. After a while, the owner of the place decided he wanted just us and not the DJ, because we were so popular with the kids down there, and he thought he'd get more kids and everything without paying the DJ, and he'd just pay us. So, but Jim was very cool about it. He there's nothing we could do about it. We didn't try to do it, and so we finally ended up playing down at the Red Barn in Monroe. We did that for a year or so, I think, on Friday nights at the teen dances. And it was a lot of fun. Had a great time. And thank you, Jim, wherever you are. He was a great guy. He really was. But we played all over the place. Helen Hunt in Old Town, the KC Hall here and there, and goodness. And we went through a number of name changes in the band. We had the very first band was Lee and the Levitations. We were going to levitate everybody. I don't think we ever did. But anyway, that was the name of that one. And then we had the Roadrunners. And then we had, later on after that, there was a group we called ourselves the Good and the Bad. And we actually incorporated a steel guitar into the rock and roll. We weren't a country band. We didn't do country music, but Danny Webster had a steel guitar that he had learned how to play, and we were trying to figure out what to do with it. So we let him play it on a few songs. Yeah, it was different. We used to have street dances in Old Town out behind Johnny's Pizza. We'd have Battle of the Bands. And Charlie Harris, the late Charlie Harris, who owned Johnny's Pizza, would hire us, and then he'd get another local band that was just starting out that wasn't as good as us, and we'd have a Battle of the Bands behind Johnny's Pizza, and all the kids would come down and buy pizza and soda and everything like that, and they'd kind of rope off the parking lot. And we did that one summer anyway, maybe two, and that was a lot of fun because we always won. We made sure they didn't book anybody that was better than us. Oh, those were the days. And I did play in a band briefly when I moved to Philadelphia in 1969. I remember we were learning a lot of songs by Crosby, Stills, and Nash at the time in the band and things like that. But that was short-lived. I really didn't, at that particular time, I really didn't have the time and everything else to be involved in a band. So anyway, that was just a minor detail in my life. Started work actually in radio at WMEB Radio, which was a station on the University of Maine campus in Orono. I did that for a year or so, and I did my record hops and mostly weddings at first, and then my reputation kind of got growing, and I started getting some nightclub work like at the Anchorage in Old Town and everything like that. Thank John Marshall for that. He introduced me to the people at the Anchorage as someone who knew oldies and would do a good job. When I worked at MEB, it was all oldies. I had my own oldies show. And, the young college kids got a kick out of that because, they were into other stuff. But it was a very popular show. Had a great time. Enjoyed all the kids I worked with at the time. And it was because of that I drew the attention of the station manager at WLKN Radio in Lincoln, Maine. And they were transitioning into an album-orientated rock station. But they liked the way I did my sock ops and the popularity of my shows and that type of thing. And so they invited me to come up to Lincoln in 1979 and talk to the station manager and some of the staff and see what maybe I could do up there. Maybe they could fit me in somewhere, And Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted a radio career per se, but I figured, okay, what the heck, I'll go up, I'll talk to them. And so they hired me. Basically, they hired me for the evening shift, and this was during the summer, 1979. And they broadcast Red Sox baseball games. So basically, my shift, pretty much, was just sitting there listening to the Boston Red Sox and plugging in the commercials when they had the commercial breaks. Not much of a show, actually. And so what happened was, near the end of the summer, there was a number of games that were on Sunday afternoons. And they would start, like the pregame show would start like at 1 o'clock or 1:30. Okay? I started work at 12 noon. And so I finally went to the station manager and I said, hey, look, we get an hour here before the Red Sox, before, when I start. I said, what's the chance, I'll bring up some oldies and everything like that. For that hour, I'll throw a few Chubby Checker, Everly Brothers, Brenda Lee, Beatles. I'll throw some of that stuff on just before the baseball game. And if there's any time at the end of my shift, maybe another 45 minutes, half hour, maybe I'll throw a few more songs on. And he said, well, okay, that can't hurt. That's exactly what he said, that can't hurt. Because they were all into, the album rock. And so this oldie stuff was something they weren't playing, okay? But I knew that the Lincoln, Maine area was a popular area for oldies and country music because I did a lot of wedding receptions up in this area. I was hired to do those, and I knew that up in this area, people like country music, and they also like the oldies, Elvis, the Everly Brothers, a lot of that stuff. So I said, okay, so I did it. Well, much to everybody's surprise except for me, we started getting all kinds of phone calls for requests during that little time period I had. And so that didn't go unnoticed by the station manager and everything else. But a lot of the other DJs that worked at the station weren't too happy because they had to play the album stuff and I got to do what I wanted, which was play oldies. But it comes down to the listeners, and I had the listeners. Anyway, I know it sounds like I have an ego now, doesn't it? But I don't. I'm just trying to be matter of fact about it. And so what happened next was kind of interesting because I wasn't at the station that long, but I had to kind of make a demand. I said, look, some Sundays you don't have a baseball game. I got 6 hours. I want to play 50s and 60s rock and roll. Uh-oh. I don't know. That's not our format. That's not what we do. I said, hey, then I'll go back to MEB. I'll continue to do my record hops and wedding receptions. I said, I don't need to do this show. And they thought about it for a couple weeks. Finally, I got a call. Said, okay, this Sunday when you come up, bring your oldies. You're on. And as they say in a lot of places, the rest is history. It took off. Lee Solid Gold Show on Sunday afternoons ended up being fantastically popular. And because that increased my popularity as far as getting jobs at record hops and weddings and class reunions and, that type of thing. So it kind of all worked together, and the station really benefited from it, quite frankly. It was about the same time that TOS went to that format, too, out of Skowhegan, and they had a lot more power. It was a lot more powerful station than WLKN. And so pretty much south of Old Town, Orono, into Bangor, that was as far as we got. And TOS, of course, you could get all the way up here in Lincoln. So, we had that competition. But Solid Gold was always a very popular show on WLKN right up until I got done. I left WLKN in 86, 87. And so I did make a return to WLKN in 1995. It changed its name. It was no longer WLKN. It was WHMX. Gone through several owner changes. Quite frankly, it was a mess. I won't get into that, but it was a mess. And they were in bankruptcy. The bankruptcy court contacted me. I, of course, lived in Lincoln, and I was doing my record hops and doing all kinds of stuff. No, I wasn't doing my record hops then, that's right. I had stopped doing record hops, too, when I got married to Connie in 1986. And so I stopped doing record hops. But anyway, they contacted me from the bankruptcy court and they said, look, would you be interested in coming back and helping us out on Sunday afternoons? Because we understand you had the show on the radio station for many years, and we've got to do something or the station's just going to go kaput. And I said, yeah. I said, I won't make any public appearances. I said, I want my health insurance paid, and I want X amount of dollars to do the show every Sunday. And if you want me, then I'll do it. No argument. Fine, you got it. So this was about March of 1995. And I started working there again. And it didn't take long before the station, the show, I should say, got its old audience back, a lot of it. And it was really rocking and rolling. And it was the only show on the station that was making any money. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough money to carry the whole station out of bankruptcy. So in July of that year, I got a phone call saying, hey, if you got any records down here at the station, get down and pick them up because the bankruptcy court is shutting it down. And long story short, they did. And that was it, and it's really too bad, but it was a hopeless case by that point anyway. The station couldn't sustain itself. The business community didn't support it. They didn't support it when it was popular. So, for the most part. And so that's kind of too bad. So Lincoln, Maine does not have a radio station anymore and never will, probably because of licensing and all that type of thing. And it is really too bad. But I have a lot of great memories and worked with a lot of really cool people at WLKN over the years. I also worked down at WGY in Bangor for a while, in between jobs at WLKN when it got kind of stormy with a former general manager, and I just said, okay, bye, I'm going to Bangor, and I went, and then he'd call me up 3 or 4 months later and say, well, okay, can you come back to Lincoln? And I actually liked working in Lincoln better than the Bangor market anyway, so it worked out. But anyway, after I left WLKN in 1995, I worked off and on internet radio, most recently last year, actually, on BullseyeRadio.com. I had a show on Sunday afternoons, and had a great time with that. The listeners were great, getting the emails and getting the, people, they loved the music like I do. And it was a whole new audience for the most part than I had working in Maine on the radio, because these people were all over the world. I mean, I had people calling up from all over the place. Well, not calling up, they would email, which was nice because we had email now instead of the telephone. And that was kind of cool. But the station, I wasn't happy at the station. The idea at the radio station on the internet was really cool. It was a great idea. But the reality was it was a cross between the amateur hour and the gong show. And it didn't take me long to realize I was just not happy with the way that was going. So I dragged on as long as I could. And then this past winter, I made up my mind that that was it. So I notified him that in a couple months that was going to be the end of Solid Gold on Bullseye Radio, which a lot of you people listening in right now or watching video became fans of Solid Gold because of Bullseye Radio, and I certainly do appreciate it. The internet is an interesting thing, but I haven't ruled out going back to the internet again, and I am in negotiations with a couple places to possibly do Solid Gold again. Some of them are regular broadcast stations that also simulcast on the internet. Some are just internet stations that and that may come about. That's one of the reasons why I've kind of held off on doing this interview, which I promised my listeners I'd do a month or so ago, was because I was hoping that maybe when I did it, I would have an announcement about an upcoming show. I don't have it yet, so I can't announce it. But hopefully that will happen, and you'll be the first to know on my Facebook page, Lee Solid Gold Show. In fact, welcome to come to my Facebook page. Anybody out there, because we post all kinds of stuff on the Facebook page. So if you like oldies, 50s, 60s, early 70s, sign up and like Lee's Solid Gold Show. Yes, you got an invitation. Okay, another question.
That was going to be my last question. Would you ever consider returning to radio? I think you answered it.
Oh, I answered it. I answered that question. Would I ever consider returning? Yeah, why not? You know, hey, the music's still there. I'm still here. You know, if the right situation comes along, I will. If not, I won't. Hey, you know, I've done it. You know, I mean, people ask, I'm not doing record hops again. I'm not doing any of those, any public appearances. Might do some MC work this summer possibly, but that's not a record hop. That's different. I'm putting a lot of work into a project that I'm doing, that I'm going to be doing for the church, starting in September. It's going to be an in-depth, long-term study and presentation on the book of Revelation. So I have a lot of stuff I'm going to be doing, but I still could do a radio show, you know, if things come together. Time is short. If you're not sure of your future, just let me tell you that maybe you ought to look into Jesus and look into the Bible, because there are things that are coming down the pike and you don't want to be here. Okay? That's my little sermonette for today. But yes, I would do a rock and roll show if everything came together. Is that all you had for questions? I thought there were more than that. I thought there was...
You answered some of my other ones.
Oh, I answered my question. Talk louder so everybody can hear you.
Ones.
Yes. Can you hear us all right? I hope you can hear me. You can hear her. Okay. I don't know if there's anything else I want to talk about. Mr. Lee was my sort of a theme song, and that was the Barbettes from 1957, so a lot of my shows would play that. And I got an old 78 RPM record of the Barbettes, Mr. Lee. Yeah, I gotta hang it on a wall somewhere. This is my little studio. I have a little studio here in Lincoln, and I can do everything right here, and then of course upload any potential radio shows. Upload them on the internet, you know, which is really cool. We didn't have the internet back then. I remember when I went back to WHMX in 1995, and they were all going into CDs then. Okay, CDs were starting to gain popularity, and of course radio stations were using CDs. So I walked in, they didn't have a turntable. And I said, okay, I have another demand. I said, get me a turntable, hook it up, and have it ready for Sunday. And I didn't need two of them because I had CDs too, but a lot of the songs and the music were still on albums or 45s. And so I had to have at least one turntable. And they got one, and it worked out good. And it was fun for a while. You know, I mean, especially, you know, a lot of the people that used to listen several years earlier were coming back listening, and because word got around that I was doing the oldie show again. So that was pretty good. And I didn't do any record hops. I still get emails or letters from people wanting to know if I do a record hop. No. I had enough of the nightclub scene and the bars and all that stuff that goes with it to last a lunchtime. Okay, no. So I'm not going to do any record hops. I could, but I'm not going to. But it was fun while it lasted. It was what I was supposed to be doing at the time, I guess. And but I could do a radio show again. You know, Bullseye Radio was fun to a point. But there are restrictions with internet radio too, which I wasn't too happy with. You know, how many songs by the same artist you can play in one show, and different things. I was very lucky in my radio career that because my show was so popular, I could do it the way I wanted to do it. I didn't have a station manager or a program manager or playlist manager or anybody coming in and saying, okay, Lee, here's what you got to do on this show, and you got to play so many Everly Brothers, and you got to play this, and you got to play Chubby Checker, and you got to play, you know, the Roadrunners and you know, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I mean, you know, I did it the way I wanted to do it, and it was very, very popular and successful, and I'm happy with that. So I never had a problem with being told what to do, which is good, I guess. You know, it was a lot of fun. It really was. It wasn't work. Well, it was work, but it wasn't. You know, kind of hard to explain. I don't miss it, and I do sometimes. I miss a lot of the people that were so nice, you know, and it's nice to be appreciated for what you do. If you're bringing happiness to people, they tune on that radio at 12 o'clock, and they know for 6 hours you're going to play a lot of songs that they're going to remember, a lot of songs that are going to bring back memories and hopefully happy memories. And they know that, hey, you know, I think I'm going to have a good time this afternoon. Whether I'm washing the dishes or hanging out the laundry or putting the wood in the cellar for the winter, whatever, driving my car down I-95. They expected to have a good time. And they did. They enjoyed the music. You know, I tell people this. They ask me, so what's the most requested song that you got most of the time? And without a doubt, this is easy. Okay, the most requested song I got in my whole career was Ebony Eyes by the Everly Brothers. Yep, don't ask me why. Great song, don't mind playing it. But of all the songs, that was the most requested song I ever got on my radio show. So, that's kind of things like that. But anyway, I'm sitting here in my little studio in Lincoln, Maine. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's been cold up here this spring. It's been raining all morning. I went to church this morning. I hope you did too. And going to church tonight too, as a matter of fact. But I thought I would spend some time with you because I promised you a couple months ago that I would do this. So I hope I've answered a lot of questions that you might have thought about when you were listening to the show over the years, or, you know, or met me at one of my sock hops or dances or what have you. I don't obviously get a chance to talk to everybody. I still get emails for, you know, with questions and stuff. And funniest things I get a kick out of. I'll get a phone call from somebody that said, "Hey, Lee, how you doing?" I'll say, "Fine. You know, I'm here at work, and we're having a discussion. What was the Beatles' very first 45? Because I think it was She Loves You, and somebody else says it was I Want to Hold Your Hand. And so I got $50 riding on this, so will you please tell us who wins?" I get questions like that. And it's fun. I don't mind, you know. And my wife gets a kick out of it when we're sitting in a restaurant, somebody still comes up and asks for my autograph. I mean, as if I'm famous. I mean, you know, really. But it's kind of cute, you know. My father listened to your show every single Sunday, and I tell you, if I bring back this piece of paper with your name on it, he is just going to be thrilled. And so I signed it. The waitress took off with it. But it's cool. It's cool. You know, it's you know, I am just grateful for the opportunity to do what I did all those years, and maybe some more down the road, and bring happiness to people, enjoy the music, sharing the music that I listen to all the time here at my studio or in my car or what have you, and been able to make a living to a point of doing that. And I have to get a plug in though for everybody listening, all you fans out there. Do me a favor, go to this website and check it out. Okay, it's www.ConnieRand.com. Okay? Will you do that for me after everything I've done for you all these years? Do that for me. Go to that website, check it out, tell your friends about it. Okay? I'm not going to say any more about it, but do that. And don't forget, check out my Facebook page, Lee Solid Gold Show. I'll be putting pictures on and different things about some of the artists and some videos and different things. And if I make a deal to be broadcasting again somewhere, I will definitely put it right on there first. So you'll be the first to know if I'm going to be back on the air. But hey, I've had a great run. You know, did a lot of shows from Waterville to Holton to Milo, Dover Fox. Goodness. One of these days on my Facebook page, I am going to do this. I'm going to sit and put the towns, every town that I have done a show, I'm going to put a great big list. Okay? that should be fun. That's a lot of them. I can't put every place because sometimes there are several places in the same town, you know, that I did shows. But I'll put the town on. That'll be something to look at. Okay. I can't think of anything else to say. Let me think for a minute. I don't want to get this interview done and then say, "Oh, shoot, I didn't mention that." I did mention Jim Winters, heck of a nice guy. I didn't mention all the guys in the bands that I was with because there was just too many of them. I didn't mention all the different places I did my record ups. You know, Pilot's Grill, Union River Oyster Bar down in Ellsworth. That was a cool place. We used to rock the joint down there. And it was all 50s, 60s music. Good, clean music. Good fun. A lot of fun. Yeah. Boy. Okay. I'm going to let you go. Okay, it's Sunday afternoon. I hope the sun is shining where you are. And I hope it's 85 degrees and you're going to have a barbecue this afternoon. Me, I'm going back. I'm working on a playlist from 1967 for myself. And putting that together. And I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Oh, here's something. Ta-da! Yeah. I was going through that today. That is a double CD of Bob Dylan and the Rolling Thunder Review from Thanksgiving Day in 1975. The concert was at the old Bangor Auditorium, and this is the audio. Fantastic show. Thanksgiving night. It was cold. Okay, I've got too much paraphernalia here and memories and everything else. I can't think of anything else. That anyway, you can always go onto my Facebook page if there's any questions that I didn't answer that you might be curious about. Go for it. I live here in Lincoln with my wife Connie. My daughter and my grandchildren live in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm going down to see them in 3 weeks. Eva and Isaac are my grandchildren. Beautiful children. My daughter Melanie. And we enjoy that. And then they'll be coming up later this summer. So that's what I do. I have 3 cats. Isaac, no, that's my granddaughter. Grandson. Getting crazy. Ebenezer Scrooge, Marley, and Tiny Tim. 3 cats. And they keep us busy. And we just, we live up here in Lincoln, Maine. No intention of moving. And it's a wonderful life. Wasn't that a movie?
Yes, it was.
It was a movie. I knew that. Okay, he's getting crazy, folks. Oh, I gotta turn the button.
Yes, you do.
Turn it off. Well, just remember, you never grow old with rock and roll. Tell him Lee sent you. Have a good one.